9:32 a.m. The camera feed goes black. Not before, not after. Black. Now here's what they don't want you to know. A taxi driver stole $102 million from the Louvre in 8 minutes with a ladder. And the password to the alarm system was Louvre. The museum director knew this would happen. She did nothing. The jewels are gone. They might be in your city right now. They might have walked past you today. October 19th, 2025. Paris. The world's most visited museum opens its doors at 9 a.m., like it has for decades. Tourists flood through the glass pyramid entrance. Phones out. Cameras ready. Everyone wants the same thing. The Mona Lisa. The Winged Victory. The ancient Egyptian galleries. But on the second floor, in the gallery most people walk past without noticing, sits something far more valuable. The Galerie d'Apollon, the Apollo Gallery, where the French crown jewels rest behind glass. Emeralds worn by Napoleon's wife, sapphires that touched the skin of empresses, diamonds that witnessed revolutions, tiaras that crowned queens before they fled into exile. Not replicas, not copies, the actual jewels. Sitting there, behind glass, with tourists walking past taking selfies 30 feet away. 9:30 a.m. Outside the museum, on the Quai François Mitterrand, a white truck pulls up. Nothing unusual. Construction vehicles parked there all the time. Paris is always renovating something. The Louvre is always fixing something. 4 men step out. High visibility vests, hard hats, work boots. They look exactly like every other construction worker in Paris that morning. Because that's the point. The truck has something mounted on the back, an electric furniture lift, the kind movers use to hoist sofas into 4th floor apartments. Extendable, motorized, quiet. They position it against the building. The lift rises. Smooth, controlled. Up to the 2nd floor balcony, where a window overlooks the Seine, where the Apollo Gallery sits on the other side. Inside the museum, in the basement control room, 3 security guards sit watching screens. 43 monitors, hundreds of cameras throughout the building. But here's the thing about the Louvre's security system in October 2025. Only 39% of the museum's rooms had cameras. 39% of the most famous museum on Earth. And in the Apollo Gallery, where $102 million in jewels sit behind glass, there was supposed to be 2 cameras. 2. One was broken. Had been broken for weeks. The other camera was working, but it was facing the wrong direction. The guards had 43 monitors, but hundreds of camera feeds to cycle through. You can't watch everything at once. So the system rotates. Camera 1 for 30 seconds. Camera 2 for 30 seconds. Camera 3. Camera 4. Cycling. Always cycling. which means at any given moment, most of the museum is unwatched. Most of the museum is blind. 9:32 a.m. The men on the lift reach the second floor balcony window. One of them pulls out a power tool, an angle grinder, $50 hardware store special. Nothing sophisticated, nothing high-tech. The window at the Louvre isn't bulletproof. It isn't reinforced. It's just a window. Old building. Historic preservation rules. Can't modify the exterior too much. So the windows remain. Original. Beautiful. Vulnerable. The grinder cuts through the frame. Not loud. Not like you'd think. The sound gets lost in the Paris morning. Traffic on the Seine. Boats passing. Tourists talking. The noise blends in. Becomes part of the city's ambient hum. Nobody notices. Nobody looks up. Inside the museum, a tour group walks through the Apollo Gallery. 20 people, listening to a guide explain the history of the French monarchy. The guide points at the display cases, talks about Empress Eugénie, about how she wore these jewels to state dinners, how she fled France during the Revolution with only what she could carry, how these pieces survived when so much else was destroyed. The tourists take photos, nod, move on to the next gallery. 50 feet away on the other side of the wall, the window frame gives way. 9:33 M. The men enter the gallery. 4 of them, moving fast but not running. Purposeful, rehearsed. They've planned this, studied the layout, timed the guard rotations, watched YouTube videos of tourists walking through this exact room. They know where the cameras are. They know which one is broken. They know the working camera is facing away from the display cases. They know they have minutes, maybe less. 2 display cases. That's the target. Not the entire gallery. Just 2 cases. 8 pieces total. They pull out hammers. The glass isn't alarmed. A 2014 security audit recommended alarmed glass. The recommendation was filed, reviewed, budgeted, never implemented. Budget cuts, staff reductions, the usual excuses. So the glass is just glass. And glass breaks. The first hammer strike echoes through the gallery. Sharp, crystalline. The sound that museum curators have nightmares about. But the tourists are 3 rooms away now. They don't hear it. The gallery is temporarily empty. It's the gap between tour groups. That perfect 15-minute window when the room sits silent. The thieves timed it exactly right. Second strike, glass spiderwebs. Third strike, it gives way. Hands reach in, gloved, careful. These aren't smash and grab criminals. They know what they're taking. They know the value. First piece, Empress Marie Louise's emerald necklace. Napoleonic era, 1810. 40 carats of Colombian emeralds, set in gold. kind of green that seems to glow in certain light. Marie-Louise wore this the day she married Napoleon. Wore it when she became Empress of France. Wore it during the height of the Empire, when Napoleon controlled most of Europe. Into a backpack it goes. Second piece. The matching emerald earrings. Same set. Same provenance. Gone. Third piece. Empress Eugénie's sapphire and diamond tiara. 1855. Wife of Napoleon III. The last Empress of France before the Empire fell. She wore this tiara during the height of the Second Empire. Wore it to balls at the Tuileries Palace. Wore it when she hosted royalty from across Europe. And then wore it when she fled France in 1870, disguised as a nurse, carrying whatever jewels she could hide in her clothes. This tiara survived that flight, survived a revolution, survived 2 world wars, survived 170 years, gone in 30 seconds. Fourth piece, Eugénie's diamond brooch. Fifth, her diamond bodice ornament. Sixth, another tiara from the Hortense collection. Seventh, a necklace. Eighth, earrings. 9:35 a.m. 3 minutes since they entered. The backpacks are full. But there's a problem. One of the thieves reaches for a 9th piece. Another crown. Larger. Heavier. Too heavy. He lifts it. Feels the weight. Looks at his partner. They have to run in about 60 seconds. Have to climb back out the window. Down the lift, onto motorcycles, through Paris traffic. His crown is too heavy. It'll slow them down. He puts it back. His decision. This one moment will haunt investigators for months. Why leave it? Why that crown specifically? Was it just weight? Or was it something else? Was there a reason? A message? Some kind of signature? Or did they panic? Did they hear something? We'll come back to that crown. Actually, no. We won't. Because no one knows. 9:36 a.m. In the basement control room, one of the security guards is eating a croissant. Another is checking his phone. The third is watching the monitors. Camera rotation. Gallery 12, Gallery 13, Gallery 14. The Egyptian wing. The Renaissance paintings. The sculpture courtyard. Cycle. Rotate. Watch. The Apollo Gallery camera is in the rotation, but it takes 8 minutes to cycle through all the feeds. 8 minutes. The heist takes 8 minutes. You see where this is going. 9:37 a.m. The thieves are back at the window. Backpacks heavy with 200 years of French history. $102 million in stones and gold. Pieces that can never be replaced. Pieces that represent the height of an empire that doesn't exist anymore. out the window, onto the lift, down. The descent is slower than the climb. Heavier load, more weight on the lift. The electric motor whines a bit. On the street below, a jogger passes. Looks up, sees men in construction gear coming down from the Louvre's second floor. Thinks nothing of it. Keeps running. Will realize what he saw about 6 hours later when the news breaks. Will call the police. Will give a statement. Will describe the men as calm, professional, like they did this every day. 9:38 a.m. Feet hit pavement. The thieves moved to the motorcycles parked 50 meters away. 3 bikes. Scooters, actually. Kind you see everywhere in Paris. Delivery drivers use them. Food couriers. Completely anonymous. Blend into traffic like water. But before they leave, one of them does something strange. He pulls out a lighter, walks back to the furniture lift, tries to set it on fire. The idea is to destroy evidence. Fingerprints, DNA, tool marks, anything that could trace back. The lift starts to smoke. A museum maintenance worker is walking outside. Sees the smoke. Sees the men. Doesn't realize what's happening. Just knows there's a fire. Museum policy. Fire equals emergency. He runs over with an extinguisher. Puts it out. Thieves are already on the bikes. Engines running. They look at each other. The maintenance worker looks at them. For 1 second, everyone freezes. Then the bikes accelerate. Into traffic. Gone. 9:39 a.m. The maintenance worker stands there holding a fire extinguisher, looking at a furniture lift propped against the Louvre. Something feels wrong. Why would construction workers try to burn their own equipment? Why would they run? He pulls out his radio. Calls security. Says something weird just happened. Not an emergency. Just weird. The security desk acknowledges. Says they'll send someone to check. No rush. Probably nothing. In the control room, the guard makes a note. Possible incident. Furniture lift. Outside East Wing. He'll check it out after he finishes his coffee. The monitor in front of him cycles to the next camera. Not the Apollo gallery. Not yet. The gallery is in the rotation, but it's not time yet. Another 3 minutes. 9:40 a.m. A new tour group enters the Apollo gallery. 15 people this time. German tourists. The guide is mid-sentence about the architecture of the ceiling, about how the gallery was designed in the 1660s, about the symbolism of Apollo, god of the sun, god of the arts, god of truth. One of the tourists is looking at their phone, taking photos, pans across the room, stops, lowers the phone, stares at the display case. The glass is shattered. completely destroyed. Shards everywhere. The case is empty. The tourist thinks maybe this is part of an exhibit. Maybe it's art. Some kind of installation about destruction or loss. Museums do weird things sometimes. But then she sees the second case. Also shattered. Also empty. And the window. The window is open. Wind blowing through. Curtains moving. That's not supposed to be open. She taps the guide on the shoulder. Points. The guide turns. Sees the cases. Goes pale. Pulls out a radio. Her voice is shaking. Gallery Apollo. Emergency. Now. 9:41 a.m. The control room erupts. All three guards on their feet. One is already calling the Paris police. One is running upstairs. The third is frantically cycling through camera feeds, trying to find the Apollo gallery. Trying to see what happened. When it happened. The working camera in the gallery shows the shattered cases. Shows the open window. Shows the tour group standing there in shock. But it doesn't show the theft. The theft happened during the 8 minutes the camera wasn't being monitored. The 8-minute gap. The police are on the phone. What was stolen? The guard doesn't know. He's looking at the empty cases through the camera. He pulls up the inventory system. Case 47A. Case 47B. The system lists 8 pieces. He reads them to the police dispatcher. Empress Marie-Louise emerald necklace. Estimated value 18 million euros. Matching earrings. 8 million euros. Empress Eugénie sapphire tiara. 22 million euros. The numbers keep climbing. The dispatcher asks him to repeat. He repeats. Total value. 88 million euros. $102 million. Silence on the phone. Then the dispatcher asks the question everyone is thinking. How? How did this happen? 9:43 M. Police are en route. Estimated arrival 4 minutes. The museum goes into lockdown protocol. All exits sealed. All visitors stopped. No one in. No one out. But it's too late. The thieves have been gone for 4 minutes. 4 minutes in Paris traffic. On motorcycles. They could be anywhere. The 16th arrondissement. The suburbs. Across the river. In a parking garage. In an apartment. In a warehouse. Gone. The guard, who is supposed to check on the furniture lift, runs outside. Sees it still propped against the building. Sees the scorch marks where someone tried to burn it. Realizes what happened. Realizes he was told about this 11 minutes ago. Realizes if he'd checked immediately, if he'd run upstairs, if he'd sounded the alarm, maybe Maybe they could have caught them. 9:47 a.m. Paris police arrive. 8 cars, lights flashing. They seal the area, start interviewing witnesses. The maintenance worker describes the men, the motorcycles, the direction they went. Northeast, toward the 3rd arrondissement. Police dispatch motorcycles, search that area. But it's Paris. There are thousands of motorcycles, tens of thousands. Finding 3 specific bikes, 18 minutes after they left. Impossible. 10 a.m. The Louvre's director, Laurence Descartes, is in a meeting across the city. Her phone rings. Rings again. Again. She excuses herself. Answers. Listens. Her face goes white. She's back in her car immediately, racing to the museum. On the phone with the Culture Ministry, with the police commissioner, with her head of security. Everyone is asking the same question. How? And here's what they discover. Here's what the investigation will reveal over the next hours and days and weeks. The security system had been audited twice. 2014, 2017. Both audits found critical vulnerabilities. Both recommended immediate upgrades. Alarmed glass, more cameras, better monitoring, reinforced windows. The recommendations were filed, approved, budgeted. Some were implemented, most were not. Budget constraints, staff shortages, bureaucratic delays. The usual institutional inertia. And now, $102 million. Gone. The password to the security system. The one that controlled camera access. The one that managed the monitoring feeds. Want to know what it was? Louvre. All lowercase. No numbers. No special characters. Just the word Louvre. A 2014 cybersecurity audit had flagged this. Called it a critical vulnerability. Recommended immediate change to complex passwords. The recommendation was acknowledged. The password was never changed. 11 a.m. The news breaks. Major theft at the Louvre. Crown jewels stolen. Value unknown. Within minutes it's global. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, every news network on Earth. The Louvre, the most famous museum in the world. Home to the Mona Lisa. Home to Venus de Milo. Home to 35,000 works of art. Robbed. In broad daylight. While tourists took selfies. Social media explodes. Videos from inside the museum. The German tour group filmed the shattered cases. Posted it online. 3 million views in an hour. The jogger who saw the men on the lift. He posts his story. Goes viral. Everyone has a theory. Inside job. International crime syndicate. Museum insurance fraud. Russian oligarchs. Chinese collectors. Secret societies. The conspiracy theories start immediately. But the truth, the actual truth that will emerge, is somehow both more mundane and more shocking. Now we need to talk about who these men actually were. Because when the arrests start happening, when the police finally track them down, the world will be surprised. But before we get to the arrests, before we reveal who pulled off one of the greatest heists in history, we need to understand something crucial. This wasn't the first time the Louvre had been robbed. And the echoes of past thefts, the patterns that repeat across more than a century, tell us something disturbing about what's really happening here. Because when you look at the timeline, when you see how history rhymes, you start to wonder, is this just a heist? Or is something else going on? 1911, August 21st. The Louvre. A maintenance worker arrives for his shift, walks through the Salon Carré, the most prestigious gallery in the museum, where the Mona Lisa hangs. Except, she doesn't. The wall is empty. Just 4 iron pegs where the frame should be. Worker stares, assumes the painting is being photographed. Happens sometimes. Tells his supervisor. The supervisor checks the schedule. No photography scheduled. Checks with the curator. Curator goes pale. The Mona Lisa, the most famous painting in the world, is gone. The thief was Vincenzo Peruggia, Italian handyman, had worked at the Louvre, knew the layout, knew the security, walked in on a Monday when the museum was closed, lifted the painting off the wall, removed it from its frame, rolled it up, walked out. The painting wasn't recovered for 2 years. Peruggia tried to sell it to an art dealer in Florence. The dealer called the police. But for 28 months, the Mona Lisa was just gone. Now fast forward to 2025. Same museum, different wing, same method. Someone who knows the building, knows the security, knows the gaps, walks in, takes what they want, walks out. 114 years apart. Almost like someone's following a script. October 20th, 2025. Day 2 of the investigation. Paris police have reviewed the footage. All of it. Every camera in the area. Street cameras. Traffic cameras. Security cameras from neighboring buildings. They tracked the motorcycles. Northeast from the museum. Through the 3rd arrondissement. Into the suburbs. Seine-Saint-Denis. One of the poorest areas in Greater Paris. High unemployment. Immigrant communities. Housing projects. Not where you'd expect to find international art thieves. The bikes disappear into a parking garage. Underground. No cameras inside. Police stake it out. Wait. 3 days later, they move. October 23rd. Early morning raid. 6 locations simultaneously. Apartments in Seine-Saint-Denis. First arrest. Karim D., 39 years old. Taxi driver. Lives in a studio apartment. Pays €900 a month rent. Drives a beat-up Peugeot. No criminal record. Well, no major criminal record. A few parking tickets. One drunk driving charge from 10 years ago. This is the man who allegedly helped steal $102 million. Second arrest. Mehdi L., 34 years old. Unemployed. Former garbage collector. Lost his job 6 months ago. Behind on rent. Has a girlfriend and a 2-year-old daughter. Was applying for unemployment benefits. Was looking for work. And allegedly planning the biggest museum heist in modern history. This is not what anyone expected. The world was expecting international criminals, art theft specialists, people with connections to black market dealers, to Russian oligarchs, to private collectors. Instead, a taxi driver and a garbage man. Paris public prosecutor holds a press conference. Laure Becquot looks exhausted. Reads a prepared statement. 2 suspects in custody. DNA evidence links them to the scene. Found at the window. On the display cases. On the furniture lift. The investigation is ongoing. 2 more suspects are being sought. The jewels have not been recovered. Reporters ask the obvious question. Where are the jewels? Becquot pauses. Says they're exploring all leads. Which is prosecutor speak for. We have no idea. Because here's the thing about jewels, about stones and precious metals. They can be broken down, dismantled, separated. That emerald necklace, 40 carats of Colombian emeralds, in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. 10 minutes with a jeweler's tools. You have 40 individual stones. Each one sellable. Each one untraceable. The gold can be melted, reformed. The historical setting is gone forever. But the materials are eternal. Christopher Marinello runs Art Recovery International, a private company that tracks stolen art. He gives an interview, says what everyone is thinking. If the jewels aren't recovered in the first 48 hours, they're probably already broken up, already in the marketplace. Individual stones, sold to dealers who don't ask questions. Diamonds in Tel Aviv, emeralds in Mumbai, sapphires in Bangkok, scattered across the world. Empress Eugénie's tiara, the one she wore when she fled France, the one that survived a revolution and 2 world wars, might currently be sitting in a safe in Dubai, or Hong Kong, or Los Angeles, as loose stones in a plastic bag. It's been 6 days since the heist. The Louvre reopens. The Apollo Gallery stays closed. Crime scene. But the rest of the museum, tourists are allowed back in. They come in record numbers. Everyone wants to see where it happened. Everyone wants to walk through the gallery next door, take photos of the closed section, post them online. I was there. I saw where the crown jewels used to be. Tragedy tourism. The Louvre's attendance actually goes up. October 27th. Third arrest. Fourth arrest. 2 more men from Saint-Denis. Same profile. Working class. No serious criminal history. One works at a garage. Mechanic. The other does deliveries. Food courier. All 4 suspects are charged. Organized robbery. Criminal conspiracy. Theft of national heritage items. Sentences could be up to 30 years. But the jewels, still missing. Investigators searched the suspects' homes, their cars, their families' homes, storage units, garages. Nothing. They searched the parking garage where the motorcycles disappeared. Bring in ground-penetrating radar. Dig up sections of the floor. Nothing. They review every transaction the suspects made in the past 6 months. Bank records, credit cards, cash withdrawals. No large deposits. No unexplained expenses. No evidence they were paid. Which raises the question, why? Why risk everything? Why pull off this impossible heist? If you're not getting paid, if you don't have a buyer lined up, if you don't know how to move the jewels, why? The prosecutor says the suspects aren't talking, lawyered up immediately, refusing to answer questions. Their attorneys make statements, maintain innocence, say the DNA evidence is circumstantial, could have been transferred, could have been contaminated. The suspects work in public spaces, drive people around, touch things. DNA doesn't prove they committed the robbery. Prosecutors disagree. Say the DNA is exactly where you'd expect it. On the window frame, on the display case glass, on the lift controls. Say they have additional evidence they're not releasing yet. The case is strong. But where are the jewels? November 3rd, 2 weeks after the heist. The French culture minister makes an announcement. A full independent investigation into Louvre security. Immediate implementation of all previously recommended upgrades. Increased budget for security staff. New camera systems. Alarmed glass on all display cases. Reinforced windows. The budget is 54 million euros. Which is, notably, half of what was just stolen. The irony is not lost on anyone. They're spending 54 million to protect against a theft, after losing 102 million. Because they didn't spend the money before. Laurence Descartes, the Louvre's director, appears before a Senate committee. November 5th, testifies for 3 hours. Senators ask pointed questions about the security audits, about why recommendations weren't implemented, about the password. Descartes is defensive, says she requested funding, says the ministry didn't approve it, says budget cuts forced difficult choices, says she inherited many of these problems. The senators are not sympathetic. Point out she's been director since 2021. 4 years. 4 years to fix the security. Didn't happen. She reveals something during the testimony. Something that will become a major part of the story. She offered to resign. The day of the heist. Called the culture minister. Said she would step down. Take responsibility. The minister refused. Told her to stay. See it through. Fix the problems. She stayed. But the question lingers. Should she have? Labour unions at the Louvre hold a press conference. Say they warned about this for years. Say security staffing has been cut by 20% since 2019. Say they raised alarms about the cameras, about the windows, about the gaps in coverage. Say management ignored them. Prioritized tourist numbers over security. The Louvre hosts 10 million visitors a year, more than any museum on Earth. Every visitor is revenue, ticket sales, gift shop purchases, cafe sales. The pressure to keep the numbers up, to stay open, to never close galleries, meant security concerns were deprioritized. November 15th. A parliamentary inquiry releases its preliminary findings. The report is devastating. Details the cascade of failures. Camera coverage at 39%. 1 or 2 cameras in the Apollo gallery broken. The working camera facing the wrong direction. No alarmed glass. No window reinforcements. Password unchanged since 2014. But then, the report reveals something new. The police response. When the alarm was raised, when the tour guide called security, when security called police, the information given was incomplete. The security guard said, Apollo Gallery, emergency. But the Apollo Gallery is 200 feet long, with entrances at both ends. The guard didn't specify which end. Police arrived at the west entrance. The heist happened at the east entrance. They had to run the length of the gallery, 200 feet, through tourists, past confused guards. By the time they reached the east end, the thieves were gone. The inquiry calculates the timeline. If police had been directed to the correct entrance, if they'd gone straight there, they would have arrived 30 seconds earlier. 30 seconds. Senator Noel Corbyn leads the inquiry, gives an interview, says the words that will define this case. Give or take 30 seconds. Guards or police could have intercepted them. 30 seconds is the difference between the greatest heist in modern history and the failed attempt. 30 seconds is the gap between $102 million gone forever and 4 men in handcuffs with the jewels still in their backpacks. But here's where the story gets strange. Because in December, 7 weeks after the heist, something happens that makes people question everything. December 2nd, fifth suspect is arrested. This one is different. Ghislain M., 42 years old, not from Seine-Saint-Denis, from Paris proper, and his job, security guard at the Louvre. The media explodes. Inside job. Finally, the piece that makes sense. How did the thieves know which camera was broken? How did they know the guard rotation schedule? How did they time it so perfectly? Because someone inside told them. But the prosecutors are careful. Ghislain M. is not charged with the robbery itself. He's charged with receiving stolen goods. His lawyer issues a statement. Says his client is a collector, has a passion for antiques, rare items. Sometimes his passion led him to questionable purchases. But he didn't participate in the heist. Didn't know where the items came from. Just happened to buy some jewelry from someone, somewhere. Prosecution isn't buying it. They search his apartment, find something interesting. Not the crown jewels, but other items. A silver candlestick from the Louvre's storage, a bronze sculpture, a set of porcelain plates. Small things. Things that went missing over the past 2 years. Things nobody noticed were gone. This opens a whole new investigation. How long has this been going on? How many items have been stolen? Who else is involved? The Louvre launches a full inventory. Checks every item in storage, every piece in the collection. Discovers hundreds of items, maybe thousands, are unaccounted for. Some were sold decades ago. Some were destroyed in World War II. Some were transferred to other museums. But some just vanished. December 15th. Another scandal breaks. Not at the Louvre this time. At the Élysée Palace. The French presidential residence. The silverware keeper. The man responsible for state dinner place settings. For presidential china. For historic tableware. Arrested. Thomas M. Caught selling Sèvres porcelain, Baccarat crystal, presidential silverware, items worth tens of thousands of euros. And here's the connection. One of his buyers was Ghislain M., the Louvre security guard. Suddenly, this isn't just a heist. It's a network. People inside France's most important cultural institutions, systematically stealing, selling to each other, creating a black market, right under everyone's noses. But still, the crown jewels haven't been found. December 23rd. The Louvre closes for the day. Workers install metal bars over the Apollo Gallery window. The window the thieves used, securing it. Finally, 2 months too late. A freight lift rises up the side of the building. Same type of lift the thieves used. Same company, actually. The workers installing the bars are doing exactly what the thieves did. Riding a lift to the second floor, accessing the window. Except this time, they're making sure it can never happen again. The foreman gives an interview. Says his company has worked at the Louvre before, many times. Inside and outside the pyramid, all over the building. The Louvre knows us well, he says. Which raises another question. Did the thieves know this? Did they know which company had access? Which lifts were approved? Which workers wouldn't be questioned? How deep does this go? December 27th. The Louvre workers go on strike. Not a small protest. A full walkout. Hundreds of employees. Security guards. Curators. Maintenance staff. Tour guides. They've had enough. Years of budget cuts. Years of warnings ignored. Years of being told to do more with less. And now, the biggest theft in the museum's modern history. They're done. The museum closes again. Not because of the investigation, because there's no one to run it. Union representatives give interviews, say parts of the building are literally falling apart. Structural issues in the Campana Gallery. Water damage in the rare book section. Crumbling walls. The Louvre is 600 years old. Parts of it are in very poor condition. And the staff, the people who are supposed to protect 35,000 works of art, are overworked, underpaid, ignored. President Emmanuel Macron announces a new plan. The New Renaissance, a massive renovation of the Louvre. 316 million euros. New entrances, better crowd management, modern security systems. Finally. Critics point out, this plan was announced in early 2025, before the heist. But the money wasn't actually allocated, wasn't actually spent. The plan existed on paper, while the museum crumbled. January 1st, 2026. New Year's Day. 73 days since the heist. The jewels are still missing. Interpol has them listed in the Stolen Works of Art database. Every police force in the world, every customs agent, every art dealer who checks the database knows to look for these pieces. But here's the reality. If they've been broken down, if the emeralds were removed from their settings, if the diamonds were taken out of the tiaras, if the gold was melted, they're gone. 40 individual emeralds, each one worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but each one identical to thousands of other Colombian emeralds. No serial numbers, no tracking, just stones. Investigators interview the suspects again, try different approaches, offer deals, reduce sentences in exchange for information. The suspects don't talk. Their lawyers say they're innocent, say the prosecution's case is weak, say DNA isn't enough, say they'll fight this in court. The trial is scheduled for late 2026, almost a year away. In the meantime, the jewels sit somewhere in a safe, in a basement, in a jewelry box, in pieces, scattered across continents. Or maybe still intact, hidden, waiting for the heat to die down, for the investigation to go cold, for the world to forget. Because that's the thing about stolen art, about stolen jewels. Time is on the thief's side. The Mona Lisa was gone for 2 years. 2 years before anyone found it. And that was a painting. Unique, recognizable, impossible to sell without being caught. But jewels can be broken down, can become anonymous, can disappear into the market. And in 10 years, 20 years, when everyone has forgotten, when the case is closed, when the suspects are released or convicted, someone, somewhere, might walk into a jewelry store and see an emerald set in a new ring, beautiful, green, glowing, and never know that it once belonged to an empress, that it survived a revolution, that it sat in the Louvre for 200 years. That's how it ends. Not with a dramatic recovery, not with justice served, but with silence, with disappearance, with history erased. The thieves escaped with $102 million in 30 seconds because a camera was broken, because a password was Louvre, because a guard was eating a croissant, because police went to the wrong entrance. 30 seconds. That's all it took to rewrite history